in Focus show, where we dive deep into tropical issues affecting the country. My name is Bukola Adimula, and I will be your host again for this episode. Our topic for this episode is security in focus, where we are going to look at the challenges, or should I say the security challenges that Nigeria is facing, and possible solutions or innovative ideas that can be used to tackle these particular insecurity issues. With me today are two experts in security and peace building, conflict resolution, who are going to give us analysis from their end, possible ways and innovations that can be used to curb these security issues. And before we start the discussion, I will give my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Bukola, for having me. I'm Ambassador Moses Abolade, a peace builder working in Nigeria, who create content, facilitate trading, and also manage peace building projects. I've done a lot of things around peace media and conflict journalism. I'm doing a lot into making a lot of stories in peace building also become amplified to different parts of the world. And I'm doing a lot of things that we will know very soon as we continue the conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Abolade.
Thank you very much, Bukola. Ndubuisi Idejiora-Kalu is my name. I'm the Director General of the International Law, Diplomacy and Economy Research Center. I'm also the Director General of the Applied Systems Engineering Research Center. I'm a systems engineer and I'm a researcher, and I'm addressing matters of security from a systems engineering perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalu, for joining us on this conversation. We have a balanced audience again today, or balanced guest, should I say. I'll start with you, Dr. Kalu, to kickstart this conversation. What is your general view about security in Nigeria? Challenges that you think challenges you think concern in the aspect of security that Nigeria is facing, and how have it evolved over the time?
Well, I think that Nigeria's security matter has not yet been solved considerably. There is a huge disconnect between people, especially in the rural areas, and the people involved in managing the security of it. A lot of things exacerbate security situations in countries. You look at economic situations, you also look at cultural defects, and you also look at political imbalances, right? I mean, considering the problem of security from a systems engineering perspective, what we do is to look at these connected elements of what you see as security. You cannot discuss security if you don't look at those factors that I have mentioned. Much has to be done in looking at what are the needs of these people beneath the well-to-do ladder or the well-to-do part of the society, the Nigerian society. My belief is that once this is done, we could have a better proactive outlook on the security problem. Let me start with that for now.
Thank you so much for that insightful answer. From your angle, Ambassador Abolade, what do you think are the challenges when it comes to security Nigeria is currently facing?
Oh, thank you, Bukola, for that. I will start by talking from thanks, Dr. Kalu, for your great insight into that, especially when it comes to issues of economy and situation of the nation. So I'll be talking from human security perspective, which is my core area. I think one of the major issues we have is that, one, we don't even have accurate data around what the problems are. For any country to be able to think of change or solution, you must know what you're dealing with.
Sure.
One of the reasons why I told you initially that I'm into peace building journalism and peace media recently, going to field to get stories, data, is because I also know that you cannot solve what you don't know. So in the process of going to those fragile states like Yobe, Katsina, Kano, those places I just visited recently for some major peace building related stories and all that, it shows that there is so much disconnect, just like you said, between what is happening on ground, what is happening on the contest, and what people perceive to be happening. Some communities they are true with issues of state security related. You know, when we're talking about securities, uh, when it comes to peace building lens, you're looking at it from state security or territorial security vis-a-vis human security. But we pay attention to state security. You use kinetic force to get communities from bandits or from terrorist groups, which is fine. I I just, like I said, my recent trip, I discovered that when you have done that and people can come back, there are some places now they have returned to peace now. But the peace they have is just what we call negative peace. You're forcefully giving them peace and succor. But currently they're battling with human security challenges. When it comes to human security, we're dealing with freedom from fear, freedom from want, and freedom to live in dignity. When you don't have those three major pillars, then people will relapse into conflict. So the people I interview on feed and though this other related work, but I believe that this information will be critical because beneficiaries of those interventions are crying out that they don't have food to eat. Food insecurity is rampant in those places. And where the people cannot eat, or they don't have means to even utilize the food they have they have access to, or they don't have economic viability. Young people are just there, not employed, and it's even worse on those edges than around here. So when you don't see all that and you don't even know the total number of people who are affected, then you cannot tactically and scientifically deal with those issues. So those are the first background concerns I think we look at. I don't want to take too much time, but there are so many things to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's like when you solve like the human security, then the next challenge will be like the food insecurity.
Yeah, so the way it is human security is a major umbrella. As I said, two division, we divide security into two, mainly state security, and the second thing is human security. Under human security, we have 7 elements of human security, which food security is the major thing. Food security, economic security, community security, personal security, you deal with health security. Those tracks are important for either as an entrepreneur, as a peace builder that I am. You must look at all those things aside from what everybody is just looking at. All interveners, including NGOs, which was surprising. One of the things I got on field is that NGOs are leaving those places because they thought peace has been restored. I was at Buni Yadi and Buni Gari and most of those places. And you discover that people are just, though they are now back to peacetime, so to say, they are back to their places, but they don't have anything. So the expectation is that what you've done in restoring peace to that place, if you don't take time to focus on what we call post-conflict peace building engagement after you have restored peace there, you have just wasted your time because the people that have either become child soldiers, they have become, they have this trauma around violence and all that, they will go back to it if there is no measures to cater for them afterward. And those are the issues we are dealing with right now under the post-conflict peace building phase of those things. And that is why we need to pay attention to human security. I'll still maybe discuss more on around human security as we proceed.
Well, thank you so much for that enlightenment. Like, I did not see it that way. I only thought like, oh, if they have solved the issue of security, this state are not secure, I mean, that should be all. Then we'll move to the next thing. But now I'm saying that if that
conflict peace building is not taken care of,
conflict building phase is not taken care of, it's like a whole lot. It's like they are going back to it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And still to you, Ambassador Bolade, as an expert in peace building and security, do you think corruption in our security agencies will impact or usually impact the security in the country? And what are the possible measures you think can be used to combat?
I really wish I would not be disclosing some of my work. but it's just that it's a great coincidence that we have to share some things, though not in details, based on the ethics of my job. But what I will also be able to share is that on field, not just security experts, there's corruption everywhere. When it comes to even interveners, surprisingly, because I'm dealing with interveners, INGOs that are working on field, and most times it's not from them. The locals themselves, they also have a level of corruption. The corruption is in levels, and when people have to make payments or beneficiaries have to share resources with some stakeholders so that they can be part of a particular opportunity that interveners are bringing to a particular fragile context. Definitely, that's corruption. When it increased nepotism, it increased favoritism. Definitely, the people that should get access to those materials, relief materials, they will not get access to it. And when they don't get access to it, then your work is actually not meeting the objective you should meet. So it's a major challenge, and it's just because of the way the head is seen. I do tell people when the head gives some kind of language, there is a non-verbal language that leadership breeds. Now, when leadership is not really seen as to be upright or very tactful in their approach, definitely you begin to see that other people under that leadership circle will tend to follow the same route. Even people that are not part of, that are expatriates coming to work here, they will also align to the system, and that's why some people beg to be posted to some places, to some juicy positions in the northeast because of some certain things. And it's also something we should be scared of because it endures the circle of violence. Because if they are gaining from it improperly or the wrong way, they want it to continue. They will not want the violent situation in those places to stop. That's the angle of complete renewal that I may not be able to go further than this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want you to, shed light more on the aspect of corruption in the security agency.
Okay, among
And
the
its
security.
impact.
Okay, yes. As I said, most of them, the major thing is how well are they treated. Before you try to say somebody is corrupt, look at what's their remuneration. Are they really taken care of? I'm not trying to defend security apparatus or infrastructures that are misbehaving, but you need to also look at it. How is their welfare before you start mentioning? I interviewed some people who are security agencies. They are close to them, and you will know that some of the actions they are taking is also to protect themselves. Now, if you are so strong that you want to follow some upright things, how secure is your life after disclosing some information? So, when we are looking at it, we must pay attention to these things holistically and not just to focus on, oh, this man is corrupt, or this police officer is corrupt, or this military officer is corrupt. What are the situations that protect them if they either become whistleblowers, or what will protect these people if they stand for the truth? So we need to be looking at what enables corruption, not just looking at it from why is this person corrupt? And I think those are the things we need to start paying attention to. If the system generally protects the interest of the right-minded security apparatus and infrastructures we have among them, definitely this will reduce drastically.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, a lot of us do not look at it from there, but we're all about security agencies. They're not giving us, they're not protecting us. But we're not even looking at it from their own angle. Like,
Yeah.
what about if they decide to cooperate? What about their own life? Are they safe? Thank you so much. I'll come back to you, Dr. Kalu. What role do you think tribe and religion play in security in Nigeria? What would you think?
When considering multi-complex societies like ours, the complexities in the ethnicities and the cultures, you have differences. And when dealing with differences, the inability of those cultures and ethnicities to mix can become a standpoint for insecurity. Okay? When you're dealing with multiple cultures, you're also dealing with multiple ideologies. Okay? And that's what makes the Nigerian context a very critical and complex arena for managing insecurity that comes with most of the clashes of the ethnicities. So, and that is why we have to be very careful how we look at the security matters as it pertains to well-being here. It is not a one-off thing. That is what I'm trying to explain. And it is not a system of using what is obtainable in the Western world to manage our crisis here. There are so many interconnected elements that need to be considered before you can solve the problem of security, what pertains to ethnicities and diversity of cultures.
Okay.
Let me just add to that. Thank you, Dr. Kalu, for that. And that also goes back to the issue of community engagement, because most of our security issues are asymmetric in the sense of, most of it, you can't really determine who is a criminal from who is actually fighting due to conflict of interest. Now, there's also an interface between conflict, insecurity, and criminality. So, decifying that or understanding those nomenclatures and those activities is important. So when you're on field and you discover that, okay, how do you decide who is actually a threat? In most cases, they look like everybody. So, but if the people know them than any security person that is coming in, and with this security structures that we have, it might be a bit difficult. However, in places that have threats and all that, the people should be consulted well. I mean, the people should be made to be in the aspect of managing their security, because they know people closely. They are closer, they are their brothers, they are their wives, they are people who, in a particular family, you have a security person as the brother, you have the wife as maybe ex-bandit, you have the junior brother who just got enrolled with maybe a jihadist group or something like that. There are complex issues like that. Those people know themselves better. If you're now coming in to say, I want to make this arrest and all that, without proper analysis and contact with this context, you will just be moving around the corner or the circle of violence. So that's why it's important that you do your conflict mapping, conflict surveys, conflict scanning properly, and you do everything possible to put the humans involved in this context to be in charge of those problems. Why you just guide the process as a facilitator? I think that's the approach that will best suit our security apparatus, because if they know this is our land and we're in charge, they will not want to ruin it. But if they see it as you are coming from external to secure our land, then they will be, oh, they are the one coming to help us, but we are not the one helping ourselves. I don't know if you get that. So, but if they see that we are the one helping ourselves, if we did not secure our land, other people, this will go to ruin, so they will look for every means to save their land. You will just facilitate the process, help them see why they should do that. And I think with that, we'll get a strong and sustainable. Sustainability in security is something that we rarely talk about. Because if you secure them today, will you be the one to secure them forever? No. So in the process, you must put measures that will help them secure at all times into place.
And coming back to you, Dr. Kalu, you know the fact that you work with technology and engineering. How do you think technology, what place, or should I say what place, what role do you think technology can play in safeguarding our security in Nigeria?
Well, technology plays a very important role. But before security and technology can come into place, most of the extensive things to be considered must have to be in place before you talk about technology. If you bring in technology, for instance, without addressing most of the connected elements, like he just highlighted about the familiarity within the family. How can the family give a clue on who these people are? You know, by saying, okay, we've not seen a member of the family for quite some time. You know, it could be that he's radicalized. You know, how can that connectivity be brought into place? Indeed, that has to take place firmly before you start talking about technology. Because as much as we love technology, we must also understand that the much of research going on in technology today is all about integrating intelligence into technology. The intelligence that technology has is still limited. So you cannot base wholly on technology. When we talk about systems engineering, people think we are talking about machine or systems that are machinist in view. Okay, in systems we look at complexities. We look at dynamic elements. For instance, corruption is a system. It is sustained. It is active, but you can't feel it somewhere. Okay, the weather is a system. The family is a kind of a system. Okay, so before technology can come in, we must have to identify the systems connected with the security problem. Okay? The question of why would somebody take up a bomb and blow himself up? Why would somebody go into a locality and begin to shoot people? Why is that person doing that? Okay? You must have to first look at these issues, consider them in a very critical way. And when you're done with it, for instance, when you've provided schools to enlighten people, enlightenment is very important. The reason why you and I cannot go and do some irrational things is that we have been exposed to education. Okay? Education is a compensation to most excesses we may like to exhibit as humans. Okay? But take, for instance, somebody who has not been exposed to such rational thinking. You can imagine what the person will do. Okay? So, technology is very important. But before we go into the use of technology, I'm not saying that we shouldn't use technology, but we should look at the connected elements that are related to the security problem we face.
So, well, thank you for that. I don't know if I could go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so first, just like Dr. Kalu has mentioned, we need to also deal with the humans that will handle those technology first. So the problem is that most times when you give, just like anything, you give it to the wrong hand. That's a problem. Now, the people using technology to kidnap right now, they are very smart, but is in the wrong hands. So if they had been educated, and now I'm not talking about formal education. My organization is Peace Education and Practice Network, where the one I funded. The idea, what I've been trying to change is we're going, because we have over or hype, let me just use the word hype, the formal literacy and education thing, because we will not penetrate those people that way. That's why my organization have focused more on demystifying issues around conferences, issues around things that is just for some certain people that will not even embark on. He was telling me before we got there about the fact that people that involve as perpetrators of violence, they are not people that have gotten PhD or have masters. They are people on the streets, street urchins and all that. That when you try to force them into the normal system of education, you will just be wasting your time. The best thing is to understand the context, understand what we appeal to them, and structure their education with those contexts so that you can get their attention. That's the best way we can get it in a short term. Now, going back to the issue of technology, before we focus more on technology, we must focus on the human aspect of it. He has talked about food security. Now, data that I mentioned at first is also very important. Data is the background to any form of technology. The reason why we are involved in most of the technological whatever is because we are passing what all these organizations do that run either Facebook and all that under the data peace building. They are getting data to be able to know what the trends are and how to relate it. So if we can get our data collection approaches right first, then we can say we want to develop what will suit it. The problem is us designing technology for some, just like I said, you are using the context of other people to bring drone into a place that they don't really need drone for that kind of issue. Now, you want to give food, I don't want to mention organizations still. You want to give food to some places in corner that you can just go there, maybe because you are scared and all that, you are not using drone or you want to do something. One, they will be so scared that they will consider you as a threat. Despite you want to help, but they will see you differently. And if you cannot get the interest of the people, then if you cannot get the people to your side as an intervener, you are losing the project in the first place. So the important thing is get to connect with the people, understand the context first, then design technology that suits context, not the other way around. What they are doing is they will bring a technology and expect the context to fit the technology. So, and that is why one of the recent research I did, the beneficiaries are complaining that interveners are giving them wrong things because they did not do, maybe most of them need education, but they are bringing food. Because they did not study the context properly, or many of them need something else, and they are not doing their needs assessment properly with technology, which you don't even need something big or somebody in the village and you're expecting them to be pressing. No, they will not, they will see it as stress.
Yeah.
Why you not just get enumerators to just be calling and be interviewing and all that? That way things will be easier. So beyond the euphoria of technology, the context identification and understanding the context is more important. That's what I would say.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. It is important that all solutions should be human-centered.
You got that?
Yes, should be human-centered, not just human-centered like generic, but should focus on or in whatever is happening in that community.
Yeah, that's
If not, you can't use the security challenges that maybe people in Lagos are facing to solve the one that people in Borno State are facing. Thank you so much for that. Coming back to you again, Ambassador Abolade, what method or how can the Nigerian government collaborate with neighboring country to solve the issue of this border security? Because a lot of this terrorism that we face smuggling is due to our, as Dr. Kalu said, porous border. So how do you think our government can collaborate with neighboring countries to solve
That question is a question I would have loved to pass for several reasons. The reason is because I have a very different opinion and view around border issues. As a maritime security expert, I won't want to say I do much in border, but I've written an article at some point around the communicable nature of violent conflict along the borderlands. But another thing is, if you see the AU, ACFT, that's free trade agreement and all that. The idea is, the thing is, by our makeup originally, do we even have to have borders like this as much as this enforces? We understand that there are problems. There are problems everywhere. Europe's have problems. Do they have this kind of clustered border system that we have? Just to move to people that you share blood relations with from the other part, you have to go through process, and that's why it will not work, because you're not using the context of people to deal with the border situation. You are building a foundation on the Berlin Conference, which I have a very strong concern around as a history student and all that, and now as a scholar so I have some reservations around that. And for me as a peace builder, I don't manage situation from the leaves or from the branch. I try to delve into the root causes, because the more you cut it, the more you waste your time. So the best thing is asking our questions, because peace building is asking the why of issues. Why do we have the issues in the first place? Why do we need the borders in the first place? Let's weigh the risk and determine why we have those borders, and why should we not look at easier method of ensuring that people can have free movement, make trade for our own benefit. Why do we even guard it and people are doing it illegally, then causing us some headache and all that? My own point of view is, we have resources. Africa should come together. Let's relieve ourselves of some of our borders, and when we can work together as one when it comes to issues of border, relieve some of ourselves the stress of these issues we are having, then we will not see it as problem. Then before you know it, we just say, oh, you want to smuggle this, but we don't have the border, we don't even have that. So can you just you want to make this passage, possibly maybe a small tariff or something, for people to just pass, like they will pass from within their country, and before you know it, it will reduce it as we see it as crime, because people will actually move. Migration is normal all around the globe. So why is it working in places like Europe and it cannot work here? I also understand that because of the damage caused into our border system over the years, we have been made to understand that we are different. We are not different. Most of our people are in Benin. I'm a Yoruba person. Most of Yorubas are in Benin. And I want to transact business with them. And you want me to follow some rigorous process with my family members? The same thing you see in Katsina, people moving to Niger. You want to tell them that they should not move because
you are creating the structure. So when we see some things, when we break some shackles from our mind, seeing it, why do we need this? But let's answer that question. Do we really need main borders at all these entrances? We want to do security check. How can we do it without making people go through the stress? You know the stress people go through when they are passing the normal route. That's why people are following the other route.
But won't it affect our security,
No.
terrorism and others? Would they enter?
Now, the question is, why do you want to deny them from entering in the first place?
Why do you want to deny terrorists from entering the country?
No, that's what I'm saying. You need tourists. No, I'm talking about tourists.
No, not tourists.
You mean
Terrorism.
No. The issue of terrorism itself, what's the root cause of terrorism? It's not the issue of border. It's the issue of value-based system. So you must tackle the root causes and not dealing with triggering causes. In peace building, we are not meant to be dealing with the triggering and proximate causes. We have to deal with the root causes. What is the root causes? These are value-based. They are not. It's not because they want to claim something on the other end. That's why they're moving. It's for trade. Europeans came here for what? For trade. And it's not the. I want us to leave the issue of terrorism aside. Something gave birth to terrorism. We need to deal with that on a separate level. When we are looking at our issue of security, we must also look at it and what caused those insecurity issues along the borderlands. And these are deep issues that when we start discussing it, we might not finish today. But let's continue.
Thank you so much. You have something to add, Kalu?
Yeah, you see, when you look at the movement of people, which you cannot avoid, movement of people comes in many ways. People move to get to new places, and then people move most times to look for greener pastures, like we say here. All right. Now, what Africa should do is that cooperation should be reasonable. Okay. Cooperation within Africa should not be on just trying to tell people that we are collaborating. Cooperation should be seen in a way where the economy of most of these African countries should develop in a way that there must be a balance. If you have a situation where there is a gross imbalance between nations, you are instigating crisis and causing people to move to those places to do some things that may be considered harmful to other people. Now, consider the rhetoric of the herdsmen crisis in Nigeria, which we've had for quite some time now. There are climatic relationships with that. You see most herders having to leave most arid parts of Africa to the more evergreen areas, in the south. All right? Now, ask yourself, if, for instance, those countries, the leaders in those countries, saw that thing coming, which is actually predictable to some extent, and made provisions for that, you would restrict the moving down of the herders to take care of their cattle. Take, for instance, also, if the countries, most of these countries where these cattle emanate from, if they had modern ways of taking care of rearing those cattle, you wouldn't have the clash, with these herders who come with a different cultural ideology, meeting a people of a different cultural ideology, and you can imagine the type of thing. So, you see, when I and Ambassador Moses are talking about not just concentrating on the results you see, in fact, I admire the simple description you gave there of the plant and the roots, and not just wasting time to cut the leaves or the branches, but looking at the roots. Excuse me. If you would have to look at what Africa should do in this context of a reasonable cooperation and not just a cooperation where we leave it on the lakes, then you would have a better outlook on solving the problem of security. Take, for instance, if every African country was developing economically in a balanced way, you wouldn't have people leaving their countries to go other places for matters of having to, wriggle it out in any way they can. The European Union can effectively have a borderless system.
Yeah.
Because the developmental pace, the rate of inflation between one European country and the other is not so imbalanced, it's
Yeah.
not so excessive. Okay? In capitalist economies, you must have to grapple with imbalance. That is a problem with capitalist economies. Capitalist economies try to balance the imbalance that exists. Because if you don't do that, you are creating situations whereby people would like to move into somewhere and cause problems which can constitute security problems. So Africa must be very keen on first addressing their economic problems, addressing their political problems. When we must have done that, there must be a cooperation. Stronger African countries should assist, weaker African countries, like the way it is in Europe, the way it is, for instance, in Germany, where the richer states try to assist the poorer states, the less richer states. There are no poor states per se in Germany, for instance. Okay, so we look at cooperation, reasonable cooperation, and not just cooperation on lips.
Yeah.
And then this cooperation is also going to be seen in the area of inter-border security.
Yeah.
In Europe, if you are arrested in a European and EU member state, your data is sent in the EU database. You have nowhere to run to. So there is a firm cooperation going on there. Africa does not have this type of firm cooperation. The cooperation should not only be economic, the cooperation should also be in the area of inter-border security. And when we must have achieved that, then we can now start talking about security. I mean, we start talking about technology, the role of technology in fostering such activity.
Thank you so much. Coming back to you, Ambassador Balade.
Thank
Just
you.
coming back to you. What do you think are the main driver of kidnapping and banditry in Nigeria? And what steps do you think the government are taking to tackle it? And what do you think they are not actually doing yet?
Oh, those are too many questions in one. But how will I peel it now? Okay, let's start with the root causes. And I'll be looking at it from a human security aspect. People go into crime for several reasons, not justified ones that they don't, but under ethics and for a peace builder, we don't see it as it's not like we're defending why people do what they do.
Yeah.
We're telling you that people, if you had put something here, why is it that the same people, when they go out to other places, they don't behave this way?
Mhm.
So it shows that there are systems, just like my system engineer has mentioned, there are systems that make things work the way they are right now. So what has increased banditry, kidnapping, and all that is, one, from my own lens as a peace builder, going to the root cause, I would say issues around human security, food insecurity.
Yeah.
Now, I was telling you with some of the interviews, and I'm not talking based on, I'm talking about interviews, my home research work, physically on ground or field. People are actually becoming poorer by the day. Economy is becoming collapsed. And it might look easy from people who are looking at it from the high class, who are here living well. But you see people, elderly people crying because they have not ate for a long time in some of these countries. So some of these states rather, economic insecurity is a major thing. Now when people cannot get employed and live a normal life, definitely they will give way, and they don't even have education to be able to think outside the box sometimes. When you have those issues around all those human security issues, food, economy, environmental concerns, people will always find way to survive.
Right.
And how will they survive? They will have to devise means they know best to survive. And that's why many of them venture into some of these things. And it's increasing. That's on one side. The other cause is value-based. One way or the other, some people believe that there is a clash of civilization, clash of interest with what they believe in. And they believe that maybe the kind of education we are getting is really, really different from what they should be getting based on their religious belief, their understanding of life, and their perspective. So these things are things you cannot zero out. You must pay attention to these particular things. When it comes to value system, it's even worse because it's about belief. So it takes a whole lot of sensitization,
get in contact with them, because when they are isolated and they are growing, what really made it grow in 2009 and 2008, 2009, but because a lot of people are leaving them, oh, it's not, there are indicators that there will be an outburst, but we are not proactive.
Yeah.
We allow it to have grown, become something worldwide, they're already making moves and all that. Then we are not trying to manage it when it's already gone. So it's best for us, when there are indicators that there will be a problem, we should look at those areas, look at those regions, and start tackling it. When they are still at the latent stage, when they become overblown, they already have weapons, they are grown, you might not be able to manage. We have lost more than 43,000 lives since 2011 to, according to Nigerian security tracker. But other findings says that it's even more than that. So we have lost a lot of things. But going back to the causes, I've mentioned the cause of human security, insecurity. I've also mentioned the issue of value-based, and all these things about resources. People, there is money in Nigeria, there is resources in Nigeria. People perceive that. People perceive that there is a lot of injustice as regards their resources, not giving them the dividend of their resources. And that's another thing that will not make you to easily convince somebody who is taking to heart to say, why are you going to have? Because they also see the governing bodies doing some things that they perceive that is injustice. So it's very difficult for you to convince such person. They will tell you, what about people who did some places, I don't want to mention, they are also making this money and nothing is getting. So when there is perceived injustice is the major thing that causes a conflict in a whole lot of, is it that issue of identity, that issue of relative deprivation, that some people felt that no, we are deprived of a lot of things. We have resources, but we are not enjoying it. So it will be very difficult for even you intervening or convincing them that they should drop out. So those are proximate reasons, not even root causes yet. But if you can even tackle this issue, that people can start perceiving that we have resources and the government is actually working for us, then they might start thinking that there is hope. But when people did not have areas of hope, and they're already thinking that it seems if I don't do something now, my children might continue like me, then it might be hard for us to stop it. So I know the government is doing their bit. Some state governments are doing some bits, but I want to talk about state government. Most Nigerian state governments are not doing enough. I understand the issues, most of us understand the issues of federal government. But looking at state government, I also know that maybe our constitution is not giving them some, right? But even without that, Nigeria is so blessed. If you move in some states, if you see massive lands, see massive resources, you know that we are wasting a lot. And I do tell people that when we get to heaven, most of us will be punished, lie down like this, and will be flogged for staying around water or around resources and wasting things away, because if there has been some people here, they might have done it better. So we need to look at those issues. State government needs to do better. Federal government needs to do a lot around constitution, around legal transformation. But there is a particular discussion maybe that might happen maybe later around conflict transformation, of how stakeholders can change some things, how people on ground can also make their own contributions.
I think I'll have to.
Give us from the angle of this system engineering.
Yes, okay.
That's the main drivers of banditry and
see, banditry and kidnapping. There is a reason why you see those things happen. Okay, now for Nigeria to solve that problem from a systems engineer's point of view, these things have to be looked at. Hunger, the economy, and the political system at hand. Okay? If you look at the reasons why people are being kidnapped in some parts of Nigeria lately, you will see it is hinged on some political differentials. And I love when you spoke about the connectivity of the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference with the context of security in our own arena here. You see, during the Berlin Conference, for instance, most regions in Africa, the territorial design of most of these countries were distorted. Okay? At most times you had people who were normally distant, who only met themselves in trade. They were cool meeting themselves in trade,
Yeah.
but never wanted to be so close to become one country. All right? Just like we are. We have friends that we just want to say hi to outside there. We don't want to bring them inside our house. We don't even want to know where we live. Okay? And there are friends that we draw so close to us that we even want to know want them to know our family. Okay? So nations operate like that. But the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference, the resolutions of those conference distorted most of the territorial design of most African countries and regions. And you saw people who were not meant to be living together, forcefully living together. And when this happened, you had a clash of civilizations, clash of civilizations, just like Samuel Huntington would say in his book, The Clash of Civilizations and the Making of the World Order. Okay? So you would have to look carefully at what are the yearnings or the aspirations, the political and ideological aspirations of these people. In the Southeast, the kidnap going on in the Southeast by the pro-Biafran group is all about making, asking questions about what is the system of what is the political system we have here that we do not agree with. Okay? So you cannot go and start fighting kidnapping when you don't look at what are the questions these people are asking. Are there any reasons? Are there any reasonable things from these questions? Can we invite them to the table to actually begin looking at what they are aspiring, what they claim of? Okay? The same thing as well with the North. Are you considering the religion of these people? Are you interfering so much in a space where you shouldn't interfere? Okay? So the political angle has to be looked into if you want to solve the problem of kidnapping. The economic angle has to be looked into as well. When people do not have jobs, or where you have a concentration of development in larger cities, just like you have in Nigeria here. If you've been to Europe or the United States, development is balanced. If you go to the southern part of the United States, you find the schools there, you find the companies there where you're working, you find you find virtually everything everywhere. But in Nigeria here, development is so imbalanced. If you don't go to Lagos, or you don't go to Abuja, or you don't go to Port Harcourt, or you don't go to where else again? You find it. Calabar, you find it impossible to get a good job. You find it impossible to have access to what the state provides for you as a citizen. Okay, this causes the shock, and just like Ambassador Moses tried to explain, the psychological interpretation of a grossly imbalanced society where somebody finds it difficult to eat a day, finds it difficult to earn $1 a day, more so finds it difficult to have a reasonable meal a day, and he sees just right in front of him children or maybe young people of his age going to high-class restaurants, driving flashy cars right in front of his nose. There is a resentment that is built when you have a society like that. The economic space has to be looked into. The economic imbalance has to be looked into. How do we make it possible for people to be economically empowered? If you are economically empowered, there is a compensation in your attitude and the way you behave. Final thing which has to be considered when you are looking at kidnapping in Nigeria from a systems engineering perspective is the matter of hunger. And that is why you see him saying that he is a peace advocate, but he is also involved in food, matters of food. When people are hungry, rationality flies away out of the window. You cannot talk sense to somebody who is hungry. So all the interconnected elements that cause hunger has to be looked into by the Nigerian government. And when we can do that, we can now say, okay, that it is easy, and indeed, kidnapping will be a forgotten matter in this part of the world.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. I mean, I was just listening. It was captivating the way you explained it. I didn't look at it from that angle one because I didn't look at it from the angle of this economic, political. This most times I just think, oh, this banditry, this kidnap. Maybe they are just like some leaders are just trying to use it. I didn't even look at it from the angle of the individual. Truly, especially knowing the fact that this banditry, a lot of young people, very, very young men, young boys and girls are into it. And they won't be there if it's not because of hunger, most of them. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So we'll be winding up with our last question with our guest. Thank you so much for staying with us up to now. Thank you so much, Ambassador Abolade. Thank you so much, Dr. Kalu. So we'll be talking about the need for the government to go deep into the community and engage with them and make their solution or strategy human focus in that community. So what are the, maybe from your angle, just in like one or two quickly, just to round up the conversation, starting with you, Dr. Kalu. What are the how can government engage community in the grassroots to curb the security issue in the country?
The apparatus of government for solving the economic problems of people in rural communities has to be taken as a priority in government. Okay? As much as you have a priority in the FCT, for instance, as much as the priority, and you saw what happened when former governor of Rivers State was appointed as the governor of the FCT, of the minister of FCT, which is just like a governor of the FCT. The FCT is an important part of Nigeria. Rural communities should be more important than the FCT. Okay? Development should not be concentrated in the central system, the FCT or bigger states. Development must have to be concentrated in the rural communities. As a matter of fact, it's interesting to know that 90% of the food produce that we buy in our markets are by subsistence farmers in the rural communities. Okay, so government must have to start looking at how to bring up the economic level of people in rural communities, how to solve the problem of hunger, and again, how to invite those people to listen to them, like Ambassador Moses has said. Listen to them. What are their yearnings? And we must be very careful how we use the caveat terrorists, like you've been using for some time now. Who is considered a terrorist? Why is he a terrorist? Why do we think they are terrorists? We must have to create that system where we can be able to start listening to them. And as we do that, we will begin to have a considerable approach to solving the problem of security. Until that has been done, then we can decide to consider the kinetic approach, the law enforcement approach, or any other extended approach.
Thank you so much. And your last words, Ambassador Abolade.
Okay, so first, thank you, Bukola, for this, and to the doctor for sharing that. From my own end, I think partnership and collaboration is important. Like I was relating with some government institutions recently, and most of them complain that intervenants, they don't knock on their door before operating in their spaces. So most of them became spoilers just to show that we are here and you just bypass us. So sometimes if you're intervening in any place, you need to understand the terrain, meet with people first, do your consultation before you go into the space. It might be difficult sometimes, but to get into and the government too, government institutions too must be open, interested in supporting local NGOs, civil society organizations, and also either security apparatus, vigilantes, strengthening them. And all those things we really need more funds. And I have been talking about issue of around fundings too needs to be looked into, because all this sometimes government bodies want to do, or state government or police want to do this, but sometimes they are incapacitated. But we need to also strengthen our local government. And there has been issues around local government. I think we left it a lot of times. I think some of us too, which I'm also encouraging people, and I'm still looking at the policy very soon if I'm interested in that. Local government is so integral to our politics, but we neglect it because we felt it's low. But it's also because of the way we structure the entire system, which I believe that under conflict transformation structure, we need to pay attention to stakeholders transformation by educating people and all that. But we need to move from there to issue-based transformation, changing the issues. Then the people who we have changed through those issues will be able to come together and form a strong network to change the system. That's where the system comes, and the structures. And then we can now go back to our legal structures. Legal structure is what is killing us, but that's another topic for another day, because legal structures, when it's from up down and not from down, everybody is focusing on Abuja, just like we were saying, uneven development here and there. People are not focusing on their local government. All of us have local government. If some of us can be deported, I would say, I'm just joking on that. But if many people go back to their local government, because many people have now focused on, because it's juicier at the top. But if we make the local government juicier, people will not find a reason to everybody come to Abuja or come to the center. And that way we will reduce the burden at the center. We need to reduce the burden on the center. That's very important for the government. Then bring it down to the local government. I understand the problem of the state governors. I have issues with them. I'm serious. They are central to some of the underdevelopment we have. If they can permit the local government to operate at full fledged, and we can fund local government, and it's possible. If bright men can come do a lot of things outside the normal formal way of doing things to get grants outside government, a lot of people are interested in some local government that have resources, then we can build local government, make it attractive. But if we don't also have strong people there to think in that direction, to work with local hands, to work with professionals and experts in peace building, human security, and other spaces, then we might just be moving in a circle. But I believe that we need to change this entire structure so that we can start a journey for human security.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answer, Ambassador Abolade. And thank you so much, our audience, for staying with us up to now. We've officially come to the end of today's episode. It was an engaging one, and I hope you were able to pick one or two things today. Thank you so much. And until next time, see you. Bye.